Hey, Sophie? Yeah, you good girl. You good girl. Yeah, you good girl.
we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our... Hi everyone, and we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our monthly webinar. Hi everyone, and out to us. Let us know how we can support, and we certainly appreciate you taking time to meet with us in this. And apologize, I didn't respond to questions as they were coming up. Just again trying to stay on point without getting too. Hope you guys have a great day, and let us know how we can help. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, and we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our monthly webinar, and today we're going to talk about GD&T again. I feel like actually this is what I'm going to envision is maybe part one of a three-part series on GD&T, and we're basing this I think a lot of because of the amount of support calls and emails that we receive, and a lot of it is around GD&T. And so we thought, well, let's just spend a little bit of time and talk about it. These are 30-minute sessions, trying to keep them somewhat short so it doesn't take up too much of your day, and also make for a good reference for later on. I think having the shorter content is a little bit better, and that way we can chop it up, and you can in the future have something that you can use as a reference or point other people to, for some training in this as well. So let's take a look at what we'll be talking about today. And so my goal in this really is just to, I'm not going to call it an intro, but just basically discuss some of the background information with GD&T. In other words, the global settings, where they are, what they do, and what you might want to take into consideration regarding those for your GD&T inspection. And how do you get to those, and what check boxes do what. In other words, this is not necessarily going to be a session where we're going to get in any in-depth detail of how to do something. We will touch a little bit on some of the new features that we've added that I think you'll enjoy and make good use of with GD&T. And we have some upcoming features as well. I think that we're pretty excited about, namely being able to define your GD&T even in a spreadsheet, and bring that in, and create your annotations even for a measurement plan, with nominal information imported in. So that's some neat things. But then also on the reporting side, I think there's some nice features that are coming as well. But what we want to talk about today, again, are those global settings. What do they do, and where do you go adjust those at? We'll take a look at we've had a number of questions on, I have GD&T requirements, but I don't have any CAD. What's a good way to approach, that solution? And so we have I think a good solution for that as well. And then we've added some controls for when you do bring in your GD&T to make it a bit easier to go through and make adjustments and associate particular CAD faces. And then also we've added some enhancements to the way we do our distance between measurements as well, to help you make a clearer report and clearer understanding of your GD&T inspection. So a little bit about me. My name is Richard Nelson. I'm the Application Engineering Manager for SpatialAnalyzer and Inspire. And I'm based in the Puget Sound area, and I have been up here since 2010, supporting our customers in the western regions of the U.S. and Canada, and really all over the country. So it's a lot of fun getting out, and it's just one of the things that probably, and I think all of us enjoy mostly about our jobs, is the relationships we've been able to develop, and the things we've been able to see and have a small hand in as well. So pretty amazing work going on all around the country. And what we've seen is just more of an increase of requests and support calls regarding GD&T. So thought it'd be a good time to talk about it. So that's what we're doing. So let's jump into it. So right off the bat, let's take a look at some of the resources you have available to you for GD&T, namely being found in the user manual for starters. And so if we take a look at our user manual, we have in the near the end, there's some tutorials. It's a tutorial section, and it does address just kind of a simple get started creating a GD&T inspection using our little simple demo part. There is a more in-depth section on GD&T, including considerations for importing in, and also dealing with your settings, pattern datums, surface datums, handling, disabling, and working with datum alignments. And then also just wanted to touch as far as when we import in a job file, if it has GD&T annotations already associated in it, then that can come right in as well. And so if you look in the user manual, here's a listing of under direct CAD access. That particular option, if you bring in, instead of a step file or an IGES file, you can bring in your native CAD. So your CAD product, your assembly model, your PRT file. And if you can find the format of what you're working in, various extensions, you can see, does it bring in the annotations, and if it does, up to what version for your particular release of SpatialAnalyzer. So you can see that really all of the major are the ones that I see, your CATIA, NX, Creo, ProE, all enable you to bring in annotations directly into SpatialAnalyzer and really begin to work with those from there. And when you see something set up correctly in the CAD model where all your annotations are associated to CAD faces, it makes it really nice to, you bring it in, you do your alignment to the model, and then you just right click, make feature checks, and start inspecting straight into them and have your results. And so I've seen really quick turnaround times as far as getting an answer on a part. Does it meet the design intent via the GD&T without having to prepare an elaborate seed model for the inspector to use. They just actually brought it right in from their release file for CATIA. And it's pretty slick when it works that way. So that's, some of the resources in the user manual available to you. Also kind of want to point out that on our website, we have the SA community, and then there's sections in here on GD&T, other things as well, so you can find articles and information that perhaps we've put in place there. So let's just go ahead and jump into the software and talk about GD&T, and so we'll just start off from scratch, where we have, typically this is what you're going to see. You're not going to have your toolkit bar up to the side, but you'll have, you open your file. And so we get questions at times that say, I don't have CAD, but I have, GD&T requirements like flatness or perpendicularity, on a survey that I've got to report out. What's the best way for me to do that? Should I just do planes and give them the angles between it? Well, that's not really what GD&T is asking for. So let's take a look at how you could do that if you don't have a CAD model, but you do have points. And so if you look at this, we've kind of constructed this in a workflow from top to bottom. So view is just simply, here's the view that's going to be used to display the annotation. So current view just simply means it's going to be facing the screen. Otherwise, I can do these so that, you have to go into the top view to be able to read the annotation, or the front view. But mostly what I see is people using this current view. And a lot of times, by default, it's going to be on CAD faces. So you have to get off of these feature types. So if I don't have CAD, I can't pick this. SA objects, just to briefly talk about that. That's planes, cylinders, circles, lines, any geometries that I might construct in SA that I can apply GD&T checks to. And that's for form, orientation, and location, and also dimension tolerances. If I pick SA objects, fit to points, then that's really not looking for anything other than just simply points. And this one is a bit more limiting in that I can use this for features of form and features of orientation. So in this particular case, if I have features of form, like flatness, it'll prompt me that I don't need to have a datum in here for flatness. So if I just simply select this, it just wants to know, well, what points are we considering for flatness. So let me throw that one in there, and so we'll hit enter, and then I've got my evaluation. So what this actually does, it creates the annotation and then also creates a feature check to say, okay, here's what the check is, here's how we process the information that goes into that check. So if I want want this to be a datum as well, or I have maybe I want to check perpendicularity to a datum F. So let's do this one. Say I have to define what am I checking this against for orientation. So let's create a datum F, And so I'll grab these points up in here. And I'll tell it, well, that's a plane. And so I'll say, go ahead and attach that to the origin. So that's my datum F as well. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. But there's datum F, and my annotations are coming in quite small. So let me change that as well. So if I say, let's set the text scale, I'm going to set it to be maybe 1/4 inch in size. So it's a little bigger and we can see it. And that should persist for the next checks. So now if I want to come in and say I want to check, for parallelism as well, or perpendicularity, let's do perpendicularity so I don't have two parallel planes, to F, and let's say maybe 10th thou, perpendicularity. So we'll check perpendicularity of these points to F. Do that as a plane, attached to origin, sure. And there's my result there. So it's, I don't want to remove those. I want to move them, not delete them. So I drag annotations, sorry. So I just move these around so that I can kind of see them however I want. Get them where I want them, hit save all, and there's my view. So, for orientation, it's really not looking for position. It just wants, here's where the plane is oriented, and do these points lie within the bounds of 10th thou envelope, so that envelope's 90 degrees to my datum. Then yeah, that's typically how we could go about reporting it very, very quickly, and just having, as say, objects fit to points, just having our points in place, not really worrying about having to construct any nominal geometry or anything along those lines. So let's take a look at another scenario. Let me just hide these for now, so get that out. So let's take a look at maybe a situation where we've got to bring in a part. So I'm going to say, let's just go ahead and bring in an NX part, PRT file. It's got some annotations associated to it. Got a lot of surfaces. And so we have, this comes in as well. So, oftentimes, I might be preparing this model to go either take to an inspector or go inspect it myself. Regardless, generally, I'll go through and do some upfront work to prepare it. But what I typically do is I'll go through and just make sure that, hey, these annotations actually, those look correct. So I can see, like, parts of the model line up or light up, when I go through and check these, in place. But if I look at annotation 1, I can see that I don't really have any surfaces highlighting with that. Annotation 3, so this one looks like I've got some, but not all of it. And actually, maybe if I go into wireframe, I can see it a bit more that, I don't quite have the entire. Well, it doesn't necessarily matter, but if I'm scanning and I want to make sure that I filter data all around the whole, I may want to come back in and add these surfaces to it. And sometimes this is just a function of the CAD model that came in, not necessarily anything wrong that the designer did. It's just, we're oftentimes dealing with numerous CAD formats. And if you're a supplier, then, that engineer is sometimes a continent away. And so what you can do in here without having to go through and recreate any of these annotations, I've just simply imported them in. They're usable functional annotations. But I can right click on these and go, if I want to, let's just select some associated CAD faces. So I've got most of them, but not all. But let's just go through and just pick, the side of the hole that seems to be missing from these checks. So if I do that, and just once I get all the way around, I'll hit enter. And now I can see that they're all in there. If I go to wireframe, I can see that now I have the complete hole. The nice thing is, instead of having to do it, because I got another check on those same holes as well, you simply right click on this check and tell it, well, I want to use the faces from that annotation and apply those to this annotation so that I don't have to replicate and go all the way around again. So I may wind up doing that. And let's just say for this one, I want to go in and select some CAD faces as well. So I'll just pick, inside the, the whole wall. And so now these are associated in here. And so now it's just simply a matter of just saying, right click, make feature checks. And now I actually have measurements that I can go measure into. In fact, if I go over to my home tab, hit my inspection bar, pop this back open, now here's my task list that I can basically walk through and say, here, we want to simply measure these, and I don't really have the instrument added. Let's go ahead and just add one real quick so we can see what that might look like. And then, so I start cycling through these and start seeing these checks pop up and indicate where it is I need to start taking points, and I get an evaluation as I go through it. So if I'm probing, for instance. So again, this is not really the how-to, but just some of the features and functions that have been evolved, and not having to drill into the properties of these or redefine them is really helpful, because I can actually use some of these callouts that import in. With the CAD views, the way the designer intended, these checks to look. And, I really don't want to mess with these, because that's, in essence, if I can incorporate this into my report, then my report begins to look an awful lot like the drawing. And that just is a nice, clear way to communicate your inspection results downstream if it looks much like the drawing. So one more thing that I wanted to kind of touch on before we run out of time are some other controls that we've added for GD&T. So I'll just go ahead and maybe stick with this particular one. So I'm going to go back to the GD&T ribbon, and I'm going to select this build, so that I get the annotations again. So this time I'm going to make sure I'm on CAD faces, because I have a CAD model. And I'm going to pick nominal. I'm going to take a look at some of the changes we've done for our dimensional tolerances in here. So I'm going to say auto set to nominal in here, and just go ahead and put a tolerance in here, plus or minus 10 thou. And we can start doing some distance between measurements. And so what's the big deal? So what we can do in here is I picked like the face maybe that I want to inspect these holes against. Let me zoom out. Maybe we want to get a dimension from this datum plane up to this row and up to this row. So I'm going to say let's do it from here, and maybe pick that CAD face, and that gives me a dimension in here. And we'll do it again, this CAD face to to this hole. And so I have these in place, and so right now that looks not so great, but what we've enabled you to do is I can now right click over these annotations, this distance between. And if I hit, there's a new command under right click called adjust leader lines. And so what I can do now with these is I can enable the mouse wheel control. So if I hold down shift and move my mouse wheel, that changes the arrow side. So let me do that. Hold down my shift key and use the arrow key. I can start adjusting the size of the arrows. Let's mouse over it again. If I do control, I can do the offset. So I'll hold down just the control key, and I can move the offset where I want. And then if I like where it's at, I can say, let's just stick the annotation, the text out here for that one. If I hold down Alt is rotation. So Alt would be rotation. And then Control Alt is elevation. So Control Alt in here. So now I can kind of, what plane do I want these to lay on? So, if I want it to be, looking at this at 90 degrees, I'll hit, refresh leader lines. You know, now I can start playing with this, looking at it from that call out view. Get back to my front view again. Show this and this. So now I can use this hold down Control. You know, now I can start moving this out a bit, reset annotation and text, and then you know, rotate these around however I need to. Maybe flip annotation text into view so that I have it set up in there. And now I can kind of repeat the same thing with this other distance between in here. Adjust leader lines. Let's make that 90. Refresh leader lines. Flip annotation text. Rotate it 180 degrees. And I'm going to use the Control, and we'll move this out. You know, out in here. Reset annotation. And so now I can begin taking my distance between measurements and start to, you know, make these look more and more like my drawing as well, which is, I think, very, very helpful to be able to do. And so this is right now just allowing you to take your distance between measurements, angular dimensions and everything else, and begin to make them look a lot more like your drawing. So now my report begins to simplify a bit. If I can just, you know, get this information in here and have it look like, you know, my text. So again, and here these same things we can, you know, adjust the size of the text as well for our annotations. For arrow length, display offset, elevation, text size. So maybe 2. We have in here, so inches. So really that's kind of as far as what we wanted to cover for our GD&T, our annotations, some of the new things that we've added for some of the controls we've had for adjusting your leader lines, for being able to, you know, to come in and just simply right click and select associated CAD faces without having to go through and reselect everything again. This does enable you to add faces to your annotation that may have been left off. And then more importantly, and much easier to do, is just simply, once I've done it for one, then we can just say let's select the CAD faces from another annotation that's sharing those same features. So if they're sharing the same features, the exact same features, and if as I'm trapping into one, then it automatically will apply to the other, and therefore save me a considerable amount of work involved. We've talked about GD&T without having a CAD model associated to it as well. So some of the other things I think that we might have not mentioned before, if I again just thinking about it, going back to your user options and under analysis, again, this is where you get to your GD&T options. Use high points for feature alignment, extrapolate, create actual features. So these actually enable you to control how your GD&T is being used. If you're required by the standard to use high points, then you want to simply check that box. By default, we're going to do best fit. You know, remember that. So if you need to check high points, then we'll do this. And what the algorithm does with this, it takes a look at the 3 high points and then does a check. Does the centroid of my measurements, does it exist within the envelope that those high points you know, create? If it does, then they'll use them. If not, then it will look for the next highest point that satisfies that. So, you know, if all 3 points are all at one end, you know, we're trying to replicate virtually how the part might actually be sitting on a surface plate or indexed up against its next level assembly face. Extrapolating axial extents, checking that box just means that if I don't check it, if I do a full cylinder evaluation, that's limited to the extents of my measurements. as far as the starting point and ending point of the cylinder. Whereas extrapolate axial extent takes it and uses the CAD model to say, I'll do the evaluation at the beginning of the hole and the end of the hole, referencing the CAD model itself. And then you want to tell it, well, what standard are you checking in? Creating actual features and solid points are nice debugging tools, because oftentimes we're looking at, again, where is the point to the center line? And GD&T doesn't really give you that. It just says, hey, you exist some distance. You exist somewhere within this diameter around the axis of this hole. It doesn't say where it is. Where this actually shows you where it is, and create the actual features as well. And then, of course, your cross-section criteria, like profile of a curve. Again, that just helps you segment that data so that you can do your evaluations. If you did not collect it in a nice orderly fashion, in a nice cross-section fashion, we just take the data and we'll find, what measurements satisfy that criteria to say, okay, I've got enough data inside of this cross-section, that's how I'm going to evaluate it. And that's how the evaluation actually occurs. The other thing to keep in mind is we don't do the analysis based on, as far as GD&T goes, compared to how it's lined up to the CAD model. If I'm checking something to datum A, B, and C, it is actually being evaluated to the measurements for A and the measurements for B and the measurements that are part of C. I don't remember if I said anything about feature check cloud thinning, but again, this, if you don't set it otherwise, I think the default is use every fifth point. I'm kind of a fan, say let's break up the workspace into more of a uniform spacing and use that. So again, user options, analysis tab, GD&T options, feature check cloud thinning are your global settings for this. So be on the lookout for upcoming sessions on more of the how-to. Once I have data in, once I've created it, how do I set up surface datums? How do I create features that are slots and set those up in SA, and then basically troubleshoot some of those complicated scenarios where I have maybe a datum scheme that's not that clearly defined or not so prismatic. How can we handle that? And so there's lots of techniques that we've seen employed across industry, and we're happy to work with you and help you with, and also take your feedback and suggestions and continue to improve SpatialAnalyzer. We certainly thank you for all the input with that. If need be, check our website, for scheduling, even virtual events with our application engineering team, and certainly reach out to us. Let us know how we can support, and we certainly appreciate you taking time to meet with us in this. And I apologize, I didn't respond to questions as they were coming up. Just again, trying to stay on point without getting too sidetracked. But we'll certainly look at the questions that pop up and respond. And we realize a lot of people look at these later on after it's already aired, and we'll try to respond as well. But again, email us, support@kinematics.com, and hope you guys have a great day, and let us know how we can help. Thanks again. Bye-bye.